There's also something that's going on with the Chinese, with the youth in China. They are becoming increasingly more Maoist. I don't know if you guys know this, but like Mao's birthday, I think it's what, the 26th, right? I forget. But on Mao's birthday, they were in Tiananmen Square. They were going crazy, saying that, we got to reinstate Maoist thought. Yes, the Chinese youths are straight up going full blown, full tilt. We got to bring it back. We got to bring back Maoism. I mean, I guess in China, this is a really unique thing. I've been watching this from afar for a while. This has been brewing up for a while. So in China, you can always hype up Mao, right? You can talk positively about all of the formative leaders, right? For that reason, like they can go even overboard with how much they love Mao Zedong, and the Chinese government can't actually like put some serious censors on it. Otherwise, they would look like they're anti-Mao. They can't do that. So it's one of those things where like a lot of the youth in China are going, no, like we want even more. We want even more. We must study Marxist-Leninism and Mao Zedong thought. Even more deeply to maintain the correct path. Comrades, a new struggle begins now. A new struggle begins now. Comrades, cast away illusions and prepare our struggle. Prepare for struggle. Comrades, carry on the revolution and never surrender. Can't that be considered their brand of conservatism? No, I don't think it's a brand of conservatism at all. But it's a really interesting thing. I watched recently the one-time video about the Red Guard and the Cultural Revolution. It was both scary, fascinating, and inspiring. Shall we watch about it on your stream someday? I have watched it before. I think I have a more critical. I mean, I guess One Dime is even more critical than I am, but there was a lot of issues with the Cultural Revolution and specifically the Red Guard. It got. If you think this chat is annoying at times about being woke, think about that, but militant. Okay. Think about when woke goes wrong, okay? When woke goes wrong and gets out of hand, like I'm not a reactionary by any means, but that was absolutely a somewhat decentralized, dare I say, almost anarchist style hyper woke movement that definitely got way, way, way out of hand. And it almost turned Marxist-Leninist or Maoist thought into this like dogmatic approach. I think in a weird and unique way, this thing that others might even consider mass hysteria, I think most people consider mass hysteria, might have had positive repercussions down the line. But at the time, it was insane. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those situations where it's virtually, I'm a Dengus reactionary. Come on. I have a very Chinese approach, okay? Don't make me say the same, the bun analogy over and over again, okay? Without Mao, there's no Deng, okay? Without Deng, there's no Xi. You can't just sit down and eat the fifth bun and assume, after the first bun, the second bun, the third bun, and the fourth bun, it is the fifth bun that made me no longer hungry. I should have just skipped to the fifth bun and it would have satiated my appetite. It doesn't work that way. Different times required different leadership, and different leadership made the right moves. There was also some wrong moves as well. But yeah, basically, the Cultural Revolution was definitely not the best time. Very scary time in general. And I would say that this right here is not going to harken back to like the Red Guard or anything like that, I don't think. But I wonder what the reason is. Maybe the youth unemployment and the lack of opportunity, because the youth unemployment is pretty high in China as well. Maybe that's the reason why they're also frustrated. Anyway, I do wonder why. I do wonder where this comes from, like this attitude comes from. I suspect it might have a little bit to do with like the youth unemployment potentially. I don't know.
It is happening again on Chinese social media that I thought this group had faded out and they were quiet for a week, maybe two. And then suddenly they are back, louder than before. And the people pushing what's called the 1644 historic narrative are trending again. In simple terms, they argue that everything went wrong the moment the Qing dynasty took power, and that modern China is still suffering from that original wound. So the more I watch them, the more they remind me of something familiar to Americans. They are basically China's version of mega. Yes, I talked about that before, right? And not in policy sense.
What's your genuine take on Deng? Just curious. I like Deng. I have no issues with Deng. Why would I have any issues with Deng? I like modern China, and without some of the tests that took place in terms of like special economic zones and like opening up to foreign capital, modern China would not be where it's at currently. China was able to make itself an irreplaceable force, but also past Deng, if it wasn't for Xi's reforms in terms of identifying corruption and eradicating the power that was brewing within the party system with some of the elites, okay? Without that, and if it was just like pure reform and pure liberalization, I think that the power of capital would have inevitably overtaken the power of the party. The power of the party is obviously only as powerful as the people and abiding by the wishes of the people. I'm a revisionist myself, so of course I'm not going to see. Here we go, social imperialist China. I love revisionism, brother. Have you built communism anywhere? No, shut the fuck up. I hate this narrative, dude. We're American. The fuck are you talking about? We are literally living in the heart of the imperial core. We're all a bunch of little treatlerites, and you're over here talking about like a 1.4 billion country that is doing whatever version of building communism that they're doing, and you're like, nah, dude, it's not good enough for me. Okay, you build it then. Have you built communism? Stop LARPing. Shut the fuck up. I'm not saying that they're socialist, or I'm not saying that they're communist or anything like that. They're not. They're objectively not communist, okay? It is a transitional socialist state, and it is their version of Marxist Leninist principles being applied with Chinese characteristics. Is socialism with Chinese characteristics. That's the way that they describe it. I have no reason to assume that there is some kind of like secret reason as to why they're holding on to this thing, when clearly is if their goal was to be seen as like a normal liberal country, they would have dropped the communism shit far longer than I mean, a very long time ago. They would have just been like, we're not communist. The fuck are you talking about? Like, what do you think? You think people give a shit? You think the Chinese government doesn't understand that like if they were to drop this socialism shit that like they wouldn't be seen more favorably by the West? If their goal is to be a part of the global capital marketplace without making any sort of sincere transition towards a socialist form of governance, or a communist government at the end of the day, then why are they still doing that? Why would they do that? Why couldn't they just turn around and be like, no, we're not communists anymore? Not that it really matters. I mean, look at Russia. They don't give a f- People still say Russia is communist for some reason, but then also people who are pro-Russia also say Russia is communist for some reason. I don't know.
But in psychological one, their message is emotional and identity driving.
What are you on? The
and
power of the
built
capital
around a
already took
single
over because
idea.
imperialism, mate.
Make the Han people great again. That sounds familiar, right? And what worries me is not whether their history is right or wrong.
There is 0% chance that the Chinese government, as it works, Chinese Communist Party, will allow any sort of sentiment such as like Han supremacy to foment. I know this is the worst place to say it in the West. If I were to say that in the West, people will go, what the fuck are you talking about? They Hanify everything. No, they have had long-standing affirmative action provisions far before we ever even considered shit like that. I don't think that they would ever allow that kind of cessationist activity to take root, because it would ultimately threaten the power of the party. Yeah, not because they're like super woke or anything, even though their policies are fairly woke. Like they have a lot of affirmative action policies and shit. Ultimately, I don't think that they would let like any sort of Han supremacist attitude to be fomented. I mean, I don't even know if they like the whole "we really love Mao" movement that's going on amongst the youth. So who knows? I mean, but this is like super. This is super deep dive shit. We're having a conversation that's like a million layers deep about the details of like Chinese domestic affairs. But it is pretty funny that I used to make I had a bit about How Peking, like my Hank Pecker character, but Chinese. And it seems there is a version of that. And I actually did encounter the version of that when I was literally in China, where we were around a bunch of, I forget, it was a minority group, right? They were not Han. And basically what I was told is like, you can't do anything. Someone came up to me and basically said like, you can't do anything to the minority groups because the government will protect them no matter what. So even if they like start trouble, and they're gangsters, these gangster youths, even if they start trouble, you can't actually say anything to them because the cops will always side with them over the Han people. So I did actually encounter that. I never really talked about it, but it was very funny, which is literally what hogs say in America. Isn't that awesome? Some rich individuals in China are utilizing this for their own interests. Sound familiar? Yeah. Any kind of like ethnic supremacist values or any kind of cessationist theories or ideas will usually be stamped out pretty aggressively in China. Okay, it doesn't matter.